We go back to the WNBA.
Why?
Yes, I know. And to quote the great Silky Johnson,
I hate you. I hate you. I don't even know you. And I hate your guts.
well, a writer goes absolute batshit.
Why?
Calling Sophie Cunningham anti-trans,
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
A bullshit?
anti-black,
Bullshit.
in a wild and insane rant.
Are you retarded?
I'm Jazz Borgonzo on this. Oh, just for context, the dude was accused of beating his wife.
Yes, of course.
But it's what's next.
And here we go.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jazz Borgonzo, what's next? Your daily dose. Hope you guys are feeling good today on this Tuesday. And yes, we're going back to that controversy that continues to have legs because everyone's involved. It touches everyone and no one has the balls to talk about it except for one, Sophie Cunningham. The WNBA, the league that can't hate this woman enough, continues to pour one out over and over and over again for her. Now we go to a commentator, or a writer, shall I say, goes absolute batshit, calling Sophie anti-black, anti-trans, in a wild and insane rant, but yet, just for context, ladies and gentlemen, he's been accused of beating his wife. This, coming out of Outkick. Writer arrested for allegedly beating his wife calls Sophie Cunningham anti-trans, anti-black, in a wild op-ed. The Guardian op-ed accused the Indiana Fever Guard of being the right's anti-black, anti-trans mental coach warrior ambassador. She's every bit as political as Colin Kaepernick. That's how sports writer Howard Bryant described, and yes, former ESPN, fired ESPN correspondent Howard Bryant, just for context again, described WNBA star Sophie Cunningham in a Guardian op-ed. Bryant argued that Cunningham's embraced a right-wing politics by saying young girls should not have to compete against dudes who like to vote pretty in sports because of common sense and facts. And we don't care about that. It's all about my feelings. I think that I'm here to extend love. This is what Cunningham told ESPN last month. But I also think that love is truth and being honest. I want to protect young girls in the locker room or young girls in sport who shouldn't have to go against dudes who like to feel pretty in their respective sports. Most of the country agrees with Cunningham because, of course, we do. Again, we believe in common sense. According to recent Pew Research, 79% of Americans oppose allowing individuals who are male at birth to compete in female sports categories. 79%? It should be an overwhelming 99.9999% with that little 1% tile left over. Yeah, those are for people who are retards. Anyway, still, the loud and radical minority push to erase sex-based competition makes up much of the sports media. That's why the usual suspects, Jamel Hill, Katie Nolan, Sarah Spain, and now Bryant, have reacted so angrily. Ooh, they're just furious to Cunningham's comments. And she looked, there you go. That's like, why? Why? Later in the piece, Brian also accused Cunningham of engaging in anti-blackism because, of course, he did. Indiana Fever Guard Sophie Cunningham is now in the act of accepting the role of rights anti-black, anti-trans mental coach warrior ambassador, the role originally intended for Caitlin Clark. At this point, you're likely wondering, what wanting to protect girls in the sports locker rooms has anything to do with race? Unfortunately, Brian never explained that to us because he's retarded. However, we suspect he realized early in his op that arguing boys and girls should share locker rooms is a losing argument. Either that, or he reflexively labeled her anti-black out of instinct because that's what he usually does if you've ever read his nonsense. Hard to say. Brian then claims that Cunningham's stance on female sports is comparable to Colin Kaepernick's kneeling during the national anthem or denouncing the 4th of July as sadistic. What? Cunningham has played the role of blithe and bubbly iconoclast. Obviously, the world around unapologetic speaks her truth, and she's every bit as political as Colin Kaepernick, Megan Rapinoe. Brian writes, no, no, and no. No. They both have an agenda. She does not. She just wants to play the game. But unfortunately, she's caught up in this nonsense because, I don't know, she has common sense. Again, I might be referring to that phrase maybe a few more times during this video. I don't know. Cunningham needs the coach award to get on the map. Needing as much as it needed her. And all it took was a silly finger point and being in the opposition of someone black. He said, yeah, remember the finger point? Heard around the world? Yeah, it wasn't because her opponent was black. It was because she called it out for the nonsense it was. For the call. Yeah. To the aggrieved whites, standing up for someone black meaning standing up for them. Add transphobia to her portfolio as a result as a star. The ladies participate in an old game no more complicated than checkers on a far less interesting. Transphobia. Huh? Yeah, that's it. In that shot, Cunningham gained mainstream attention by late summer because she's one of the few WNBA players willing to defend Caitlin Clark both on the court and in the media. Fans appreciate Cunningham because she's willing to acknowledge the obvious. Clark is the WNBA's biggest draw, its best player, and has often been treated unfairly by players, officials, members of the media, even her own coaching staff. As she gets mentally and physically abused, Cunningham is there to watch her back because that's what your teammates are supposed to do, unlike your coaches. Anyway, Cunningham's also hot. Well, she is. She is nice on the optic nerve. And the far left seems to have a real problem with these days with attractive, happy, successful white women, whether it's Cunningham, Sydney Sweeney, or Margot Robbie. It's hardly surprising to see a career-long radical ideological like Howard Bryant try to diminish Cunningham while scoring political points. Bryant has spent years trying to elevate his standing with the cool kids in sports media, and of course he fails every single time. In 2011, Bryant was also arrested on charges of allegedly slapping his wife around in public in front of his 6-year-old son. He was also charged with assaulting a police officer who responded after witnesses allegedly saw Bryant choking his wife. Yeah, so you should really read this guy because he really knows what he's talking about. Later, Bryant blamed the arrest on, wait for it, racisms. Of course he did. Bryant is black. His wife, who allegedly choked, is white. Figure that out. Make that make sense. Anyway, these are the people trying to convince us that women like Cunningham and Clark are the problem. Do not forget that. Oh, and we go from that to this. This also comes out of Breitbart. WNBA coach Natalie Nakasi supports trans mental athletes in women's sports. Yeah, not all agree. Yet another WNBA coach has now spoken out to support inclusivity, diversity, equity, an agreement that men who claim to be women should be allowed to play in women's sports, earning a sharp rebuke from tennis legend Martina Navratilova. Natalie Nakasi, head coach of the Golden State Valkyries, insists that sports is about belonging, and went on to say that she's all for trans mental dudes playing in women's sports during her press availability session on Sunday. Let's hear it from her directly.
I know you don't have the fever again in the regular season, but coming out of the break, one of the big news stories has been Sophie Cunningham and the protests for her and protests against her. And, you know, they had a national televised game today and Cheryl, you know, wore a shirt, and it's just a conversation. I'm wondering just, what do you think about it? Do you think that's good for the league? Does it
I just love how she goes, it's just a conversation.
Is it just noise? I'm just wondering what your opinion is.
Definitely not noise.
I think, thank you for that question. I think just in terms of...
Now remember, other coaches have said either I'm not smart enough, you know, I'm not scientifically based enough to know what a woman is, or you have other coaches who just pussified out. Here we go.
How I'm seeing it is, if I could answer with, like, for me, sports is about belonging. It's about inclusivity.
No, sports is about competition. It's about winning and losing. It's about whether you're good enough to play. It's about your teammates. It's about your coaches. It's about you. It's about the team. Just for context.
It's about allowing everyone to be their authentic self. You know, I'm big on that just because I have been criticized for my height, for my ethnicity. I've been in those you shouldn't belong here many times. And for me, I don't want that space, especially Golden State, to ever feel like that. So I'm all about women, little girls deserving to play, and that includes trans women. So I'm all about
for little girls who want to play, including dudes who like to feel pretty. Okay. Natasi joined 3 other WNBA coaches who pussified out, because of course they did. The coaches' comments sparked a firestorm, including comments from Martina Navratilova, legend, for one, dealt with a swift backhand to Coach Nakasi. Quote, how is this including males and women on women's teams inclusive for the female athlete who lost a spot to a dude? The ignorance is astounding, she wrote on Monday.
ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that.
ESPN, you talked about one.
My thoughts. One, thank you, Martina Navratilova. But on this, absolutely 1,000% in agreement. Ask the women who've lost spots to males. Ask the women who've lost rings to males, who've lost medals to males, who've lost, I don't know, scholarships to dudes who like to feel pretty because they're dudes. But no, let's not count that. Let's talk about the dude who accuses Sophie of being a hater of both race and of women. Oh, I'm sorry, trans women. I'm sorry, of dudes who like to feel pretty. I'm sorry, of mentally ill men who want to play in women's sports. Again, usual suspects. Him, Jamel Hill, Sarah Spain, others in the ESPN. And they need to lay off and fire some more people. Anyway, when you have coaches who won't back Sophie, now you got people going after Caitlin Clark because she won't step up and say anything. Now, you have great arguments on both sides. You have those who are saying she had an opportunity to step up and she blew it. There are others who are saying, well, I can understand why she's just concentrating on basketball because Sophie's got her back. But it shouldn't be Sophie alone. Sophie should not carry this burden alone. She is the #1 major player on the planet who's actually saying anything regarding this, who's actually putting her foot down and says, fuck no to dudes who like to feel pretty, playing in women's sports, invading their spaces. Should there be more? Absolutely. Should it be Caitlin Clark? That's her decision. She's always said from day one, I want to concentrate on basketball and basketball solely. So that's fine. But guess what? She's involved in it too, whether she likes it or not. And eventually there's going to be a point, there's going to be a push comes to shove where basically she says, yeah, you know what? Enough of this shit. She's already getting beat up mentally and physically because the league hates her guts. But unfortunately, there's one who says, hold my beer. I'm being hated more than you are. And that is one Sophie Cunningham. And she has no problem carrying that mantle. She has no problem carrying on that crutch. She has no problem carrying that 2x4 on her shoulder like Tom Brady when he got picked in the 6th round, and still carries it to this day. She has no problem doing it. She will continue to stand her ground, stick to her guns, call out facts where they are, call out common sense where they are. At the end of the day, she's right. And these idiots are just that. Idiots. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment. Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll see you next time. Peace.